He built the greatest temple the world had ever seen. He was blessed by God not once, but twice. He ruled an empire where silver was worthless because gold was everywhere. And yet, he died empty. This is not just the story of a king. It's the story of a man who had everything and lost it. Not to war, not to betray, but to his own heart. How does the wisest man on earth become the greatest cautionary tale in history? Because sometimes the biggest falls don't happen in public. They happen slowly, one compromise at a time. And maybe you were meant to hear this story before you make the same mistake. Stay with me. Before the throne, before the temple, before the wisdom, there was shame. The story of Solomon doesn't begin in triumph. It begins with a man's greatest failure. David was already king when he saw her, Bathsheba. She was not his wife. She was the wife of Uriah, one of David's most loyal soldiers. But lust doesn't wait for wisdom. David sent for her anyway. When she became pregnant, he panicked. He tried to manipulate the truth. When that failed, he arranged Uriah's death on the battlefield, disguised as a strategy. God sent the prophet Nathan with a message no king wanted to hear. "You are the man," he said. And with those words, the secret was shattered. The child from that union didn't survive. David wept, Bathsheba wept. The kingdom felt the weight of what had been lost. But then came Solomon, born not from perfection but from repentance, not from favor but from forgiveness. He was not David's first son, not the strongest, not the most expected, but he was chosen. The name given to him by the prophet Nathan was Jedediah, beloved of the Lord. He carried not just royal blood, but divine restoration. When David lay dying, another son, Adonijah, tried to seize the throne. But Bathsheba and Nathan reminded the king that God had already spoken. David acted fast. Solomon was anointed in public, while Adonijah celebrated in secret. The crown didn't pass through lineage, it passed through prophecy. And that's how Solomon, a child born from sorrow, became the vessel of glory. When Solomon took the throne, he was young, likely in his late teens or early 20s. The kingdom had been secured through blood, and the weight of the crown was heavy. He knew it. And so did God. One night, Solomon went to Gibeon, where the main altar still stood. According to 1 Kings 3:5, he offered 1,000 burnt offerings to the Lord. That night, God appeared to him in a dream, and the Creator of the universe asked one question: "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Imagine that. No test, no terms. Just a divine invitation. Solomon could have asked for power, revenge, or long life, but he didn't. Instead, he said, "I am only a child. I do not know how to carry out my duties. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." God was moved. He replied, "Because you have asked for this, I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be." To prove it, the very next test came swiftly. 2 women came before the young king. Both had given birth. One baby had died. Now both claimed the living child. No witnesses, no proof. Solomon asked for a sword. "Cut the living child in 2, he said. One woman cried out, "Please give her the baby." The other said, "Let him be neither hers nor mine." Solomon looked at them both. "Give the child to the first woman. She is his mother." And all Israel saw. This was not just a king. This was wisdom from above. Solomon's name spread across nations, and the world began to listen. Solomon's reign wasn't just a golden age, it was the Golden Age. After years of war under Saul and David, Solomon ruled during a period of peace. No bloodshed, no invasions, just progress. His first act of devotion? Fulfilling his father David's dream, building the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem. According to 1 Kings chapters 6-8, construction took 7 years. The temple stood 90 feet long and 45 feet high. Cedar from Lebanon, gold overlays, carved cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers. Every detail was sacred. Every stone spoke of glory. When the temple of the Lord was complete, something extraordinary happened. A cloud filled the temple, and the priests couldn't even enter. God's presence had come. Jerusalem, once a tribal capital, became the spiritual and economic hub of the ancient world. As recorded in 1 Kings, Solomon expanded trade routes, controlled toll roads, and forged alliances through diplomacy, not war. His navy, built with Phoenician help, as confirmed by the University of Chicago's Oriental Institute, sailed down the Red Sea, bringing gold, ivory, and exotic animals from Ophir and Tarshish. Silver lost its value. According to 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 21, considered as nothing in Solomon's days. And then came a visitor from the ends of the earth, the Queen of Sheba. She tested Solomon with questions. As told in 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 7, when she saw his wisdom, his palace, and the temple, she whispered, "Not even half was told to me." Solomon didn't just build cities, he built a legacy of words. The Book of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Songs, his wisdom passed into eternity. This was Solomon at his height. But as we're about to see, even the brightest light can cast a long shadow. And if something inside you is stirring right now, don't let it pass. Tap like, not to please the algorithm, but to push this revelation through the veils. Subscribe, not to this channel, but to the movement awakening within you, and declare it publicly. I remember who I am, and I'm ready. For years, Solomon stood as a symbol of divine blessing, but his downfall didn't happen overnight. It began with a slow erosion of obedience, one decision at a time. King Solomon loved many foreign women, and that changes everything. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines, but this wasn't just about lust. It was a political strategy. In the ancient world, royal marriages sealed peace treaties. Egypt, Moab, Ammon, Sidon, Edom, every alliance brought him a new bride, and with each bride came their gods. God had warned Israel clearly in Deuteronomy and again in Kings, "You shall not intermarry with them, for surely they will turn your hearts after their gods." Solomon didn't listen. The man who built the temple of Yahweh began to build altars to gods like Moloch, Chemosh, and Ashtoreth, deities worshipped with practices that included sexual ritual and, in some cases, child sacrifice. Archaeological references to Molech's cult, cited in journals from Harvard Theological Review and excavations in Tophet, Carthage, confirm that child offerings were real in some Canaanite traditions. Chemosh, the god of Moab, was similarly worshipped with brutal rites, and Solomon, the son of David, gave these gods space in Jerusalem. In 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 4, it is said, "His heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been." That's the real tragedy. He didn't reject God completely. He simply divided his heart. He prayed in the temple of Yahweh and burned incense in the temples of idols. That's how the fall begins, not with rebellion, but with slow, silent compromise. And God saw it all. God had appeared to Solomon once in Gibeon, and again after the temple was completed. Both times he offered a blessing on one condition: remain faithful. In his later years, he built altars for the gods of his foreign wives, Ashtoreth, Chemosh, Molech, gods that demanded practices Yahweh had strictly forbidden. This wasn't just disobedience, it was a betrayal. According to the biblical account in 1 Kings chapter 11 verses 9 and 10, God became angry because Solomon had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. Then came the verdict. Since this is your attitude, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you. But out of mercy for David, God added, I will not do it during your lifetime. I will tear it out of the hand of your son. That mercy, though, did not stop the shaking. Jeroboam, a skilled worker and leader in Solomon's administration, was chosen by God to lead 10 tribes. The prophet Ahijah the Shilonite met Jeroboam and tore his cloak into 12 pieces, saying, Take 10. God is giving you the kingdom. Enemies began to rise. Hadad the Edomite returned from Egypt. Rezon of Damascus harassed Israel's borders. These weren't just enemies, they were consequences. The Golden Empire had begun to crack. Judgment had arrived, not with fire, but with a fracture. In his final years, King Solomon didn't write about victory or legacy. He wrote about emptiness. The man who once spoke with God now sat alone, surrounded by gold, yet haunted by silence. And so he wrote a book, Ecclesiastes. Its first line cuts deep. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. These are not the words of a bitter man. They are the voice of someone who had it all and found no rest in any of it. He had built palaces, collected treasures, and written thousands of proverbs. He had married for diplomacy, tasted every pleasure, and built temples to many gods. But none of it filled the ache. Modern scholars from institutions like Hebrew University of Jerusalem and Cambridge University Press agree that Ecclesiastes shows a sharp turn in Solomon's tone, from wise instruction to personal confession. He writes, I denied myself nothing my eyes desired, yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done, everything was meaningless. He wasn't preaching, he was warning, and in his last chapter the message becomes clear. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. That's it. Not gold, not fame, but reverence and obedience. And maybe Solomon's greatest gift to us. It wasn't his wisdom at all. Maybe it was his regret, preserved in Scripture so you don't have to repeat it. When Solomon died, his son Rehoboam inherited the throne, but he did not inherit his father's wisdom. The people, already burdened by years of taxation and forced labor, came to Rehoboam with a simple request: lighten the load, and we will serve you. Rehoboam sought counsel. The elders advised mercy, but his young advisors told him to be harsher than his father. He listened to pride, and the kingdom split. 10 tribes broke away, choosing Jeroboam as their king. Only Judah and Benjamin remained with Rehoboam. This was the birth of a divided Israel: the northern kingdom, Israel, and the southern kingdom, Judah. Jeroboam, fearing that people might return to Jerusalem to worship, made a fateful decision. He built golden calves in Bethel and Dan, saying, "Here are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. This act mirrored the sin at Sinai, and it led to centuries of idolatry. The glory of Solomon's empire crumbled. What had taken decades to build collapsed in days. As confirmed by the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs and Oxford's Center for Hebrew and Jewish Studies, the division was not just political, it was spiritual. The Golden Age was over. The decline had begun. Wisdom without obedience is dangerous. Solomon wasn't just a smart king. God gave him wisdom like no other man before or after him. He wrote the book of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Songs. Yet in the end, all of that knowledge didn't save him. Why? Because he stopped listening to the one who gave it to him. Solomon's story is a warning to every gifted, called, and blessed person. Talent does not protect you from downfall. Favor can't shield you from consequences if your heart turns away. Even Jesus warned in Luke 12:48, "To whom much is given, much will be required." The altars Solomon built for Molech and Chemosh were not just architectural sins, they were mirrors of a divided soul. And today many build similar altars, not with stone, but with obsession, ego, addiction, or silent rebellion. So ask yourself, are you still fully devoted? Or have you quietly allowed foreign gods to live in the corners of your heart? Solomon shows us one hard truth. What starts with divine favor can end in ruin if we forget the one who gave it all. Solomon didn't die in chains. He died in a palace, surrounded by gold, comfort, and silence. But his heart? It had wandered far. The man who once wrote, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom," spent his last years searching for meaning. And what did he find? Everything is meaningless, chasing after the wind. Written by Solomon himself. He had seen everything, tasted everything, built everything. And yet, he ended his life not with a monument, but with a confession. If something inside you stirred when you heard Solomon's name, that wasn't random. That was memory. The story isn't just about him, it's about us. Comment, "I choose wisdom and obedience," if you feel this truth hits your heart. Subscribe not just for content, but for reminders that awaken the soul.